All right, so get ready because today we're diving deep, deep into this paper, and it's all about how systems learn, even when they don't have all the information. And it's called Deficient Excitation in Parameter Learning.
And you know what's really cool about this? It's not just about robots or AI. No, this applies to anything that learns from data.
Which includes us.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, even us humans.
So this paper, it's like a window, into how we learn, even when we're missing, like, crucial information.
Right.
The paper talks about parameters, which is kind of like, I think of it as like the secret recipe a system needs to, like, understand and predict the world around it.
Right. Imagine you're trying to recreate your grandma's, famous cookies, but you only have like half the recipe. You might be able to get close.
Yeah.
But it won't be quite the same.
You're missing key ingredients, or in this case, we're talking about data, right? Key data.
Exactly.
The paper calls this deficient excitation, or DE for short.
Right.
It's basically when the data you're using to learn is missing important pieces.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is it's not just about having less data. It's about missing specific types of information.
Okay.
Think about learning to drive. You could spend hours driving in a parking lot.
Right.
But if you never hit the highway, you'll be missing a crucial dimension of driving experience.
Oh, okay. So how does this deficient excitation actually play out in something like a self-driving car? Are we talking fender benders or like something more serious?
Well, a self-driving car learns by analyzing tons and tons of data, like
Right.
road conditions, traffic patterns, even pedestrian behavior. But what if its training data lacks examples of heavy rain or snow? It might make unsafe decisions in those situations because its knowledge is deficient in that specific area.
Feels like the car has gaps in its understanding of the world, which could have, real consequences.
Exactly.
That's kind of scary.
Exactly. But here's where the paper gets really, really interesting. It's not just about identifying these deficiencies, it's about what systems do to overcome them.
Okay.
The paper introduces algorithms.
That help systems figure out what they can and cannot learn accurately, even if they don't know beforehand how deficient their data is.
Wait, so the system is basically saying, hey, I know I'm missing some information here, but I'm going to make the best of what I've got.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. The paper calls this the identifiable subspace, which is essentially the portion of knowledge a system can learn reliably from the data it has.
Yep.
It's like our car realizing, I may not be a pro in snowstorms, but I can still navigate sunny highways with confidence.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get this. So even with deficient excitation, the system doesn't just give up, it adapts its learning strategy.
Right.
But how does this all connect to, like, everyday life?
Think about learning to cook. Let's say you try a new recipe, but it doesn't turn out quite right.
Yeah.
You give up on cooking altogether.
No.
No. You probably analyze what went wrong, maybe adjust the ingredients or the cooking time next time.
So we're constantly doing this, like, deficient excitation dance in our own lives, right?
Adjusting our understanding based on the information we have, even if it's incomplete.
Precisely. And just like those algorithms in the paper, we're often trying to find the best fit solution based on limited data.
Speaking of best fit, the paper mentions something called least squares. What is that all about?
That's a common way to find the best possible solution when you're dealing with data.
Okay.
It's like trying to draw a straight line through a bunch of scattered dots. You want a line that gets as close to as many dots as possible, even if it can't perfectly hit every single one.
So least squares is like finding the best compromise.
Yeah.
The solution that makes the most sense given the available information, even if it's not perfect.
But how does this apply to something as complex as like a self-driving car or a financial model?
Well, those systems are using least squares to constantly adjust their parameters or their understanding of the world based on the data they're receiving.
Yeah.
Even with deficient excitation, they're still trying to find the optimal solution within their identifiable subspace.
Right.
That area they can confidently learn. Okay, so we've got systems learning even with missing information.
Right.
They're figuring out what they can and cannot learn.
Right.
And they're using this least squares thing to find the best possible solution. This paper is blowing my mind.
And there's even more. The paper also looks at distributed systems, which is essentially when multiple learners are working together.
Okay.
Imagine a team of scientists each studying a different aspect of a problem. They might each have their own deficient excitation based on their individual research, but by sharing their knowledge, they can get a much more complete picture.
So that's like saying even if we all have gaps in our individual knowledge,
Right.
by collaborating and sharing what we don't know, we can overcome those limitations.
Exactly.
Just like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Everyone has a few pieces, and together we can complete the picture.
Exactly. And the paper shows how these distributed systems can learn incredibly effectively, even when each individual learner is dealing with deficient excitation. It's a powerful testament to the benefits of collaboration.
So we've established that deficient excitation, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in self-driving cars, it's in financial models,
Right.
it's even in how we learn to cook.
Right.
What about something less technical? Like how about forming opinions?
Oh, that's a great point. We rarely have all the facts when forming opinions.
Okay.
Like trying to solve a mystery but only having a few clues.
Yeah.
You might jump to conclusions based on limited information, which is essentially what happens when we experience deficient excitation in our thinking.
So it's like our opinions are built on this identifiable subspace, right?
Right.
That part of the issue we can understand with the limited information we have.
Yeah.
But what happens when we encounter like new information that challenges those views?
That's when it's crucial to be aware of our own deficient excitation. Recognizing that our opinions might be based on incomplete information can make us more open to considering different perspectives
Right.
and adjusting our views accordingly.
It's like saying, okay, I formed this opinion based on what I knew at the time, but now I'm getting new information, so maybe I need to rethink things.
Exactly.
It's all about being open to learning and growing.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of distributed learning becomes so important.
Okay.
Just like those scientists pooling their knowledge, we can overcome our individual deficient excitation by engaging in thoughtful discussions with people who have different viewpoints.
But isn't there a danger in that? Like, what if those other viewpoints are also based on deficient excitation?
Right.
How do we know who to trust?
That's a valid concern, and it highlights the importance of critical thinking.
Okay.
We can't just blindly accept any information we encounter.
Yeah.
We need to evaluate sources, consider biases, and weigh different perspectives against each other.
So it's not just about like seeking out diverse viewpoints. It's about being discerning about the information we consume.
Right.
It's like being a detective, right? Sifting through evidence and trying to piece together the truth, even if we know we might never have the complete picture.
That's a great analogy. And it brings us back to the real-world implications of deficient excitation.
Okay.
Think about how algorithms are being used to make decisions in areas like healthcare, finance, and even criminal justice.
Oh, you're right. If those algorithms are learning from deficient data, there's a risk of them making biased or inaccurate decisions
Yeah, that's
that could
exactly
have serious consequences for people's lives.
Precisely. And this is where the paper's insights become really crucial. By understanding how deficient excitation impacts system learning, we can start to design and implement algorithms that are more robust, transparent, and accountable.
So it's not about like abandoning these powerful technologies. It's about using them responsibly and ethically.
Right.
It's about recognizing their limitations and making sure they're used in ways that benefit society as a whole.
Exactly. And that requires a deeper understanding of deficient excitation, not just by engineers and scientists, but by policymakers, regulators, and even everyday citizens who are impacted by these technologies.
So this paper isn't just a technical deep dive. It's a call to action.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all need to be more aware of how deficient excitation shapes our world,
Right.
from our personal opinions to the algorithms that are increasingly influencing our lives.
And that awareness can empower us to be more critical thinkers, more informed decision makers, and ultimately more active participants in shaping a future where technology is used responsibly and equitably.
It's kind of funny, we often put experts on a pedestal and assume they have all the answers, but this whole deficient excitation thing makes you kind of question that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Even the most brilliant minds in the world, they are working with incomplete information.
Right.
They have their own identifiable subspaces, areas where their knowledge is strong, and gaps where they're still learning.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be open to new information, to challenge our assumptions, and to embrace the fact that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving.
Yeah. It's almost like we need to become comfortable with being, a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
Like acknowledging that we don't have all the answers can be freeing in a way, right?
Yeah.
It allows us to be more curious, more open-minded, and more willing to learn from others.
I think that's a brilliant insight. It's not about being afraid of the gaps in our knowledge, but rather seeing them as opportunities for growth and discovery.
This brings us back to like the heart of this whole deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Deficient excitation isn't just a technical term. It's a reflection of the human condition.
Right. Yeah.
We're all constantly learning, adapting, and trying to make sense of the world with the information we have, even if it's incomplete.
And that's what makes this concept so powerful. It reminds us that we're all in this together, constantly navigating the complexities of deficient excitation in our own unique ways.
Okay, so to wrap things up, let's distill this all down to a few key takeaways for our listener. What are the most important things they should remember about deficient excitation?
First and foremost, remember that deficient excitation is not a sign of failure. It's simply a reality of learning and decision-making in a world where we rarely have all the information.
Okay, what else?
Be aware of the identifiable subspace.
Right.
What can you confidently learn from the data you have, and what areas might require more exploration or collaboration?
Got it.
And finally, embrace the unknown. Don't be afraid to challenge your assumptions, seek out diverse perspectives, and continue to learn and grow throughout your life.
Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into deficient excitation and parameter learning. We hope you've enjoyed exploring this fascinating concept with us. Remember, a little bit of deficient excitation can actually be a good thing. It keeps us curious, humble, and always learning. Until next time.